Hey guys, it's Drake. Happy New Year's. 2015 was a crazy ride, wasn't it? I mean, we got a new Star Wars. Things happened before Star Wars. Things happened after Star Wars. Things happened during Star Wars, which most notably a new Star Wars. So, a pretty eventful year, right? And I'm here to tell you about the top 10 best games of 2015. Roll it, Stevie! Stevie's out partying. I gotta roll it. Hold on. Rolling it!
Surprisingly, Rise of the Tomb Raider, despite the silly name, is actually pretty good. It returns to the form of the old Tomb Raider games, where lore is actually, raiding tombs in the game called Tomb Raider. I know, mind blower. And a good portion of the game is actually centered around archaeology, puzzle solving, and finding ancient artifacts. And they don't spend as much time finding various ways of lore to grotesquely die. They still do that, but it's in a smaller scale this time. And a lot of the combat mechanics from the previous game have been improved in this one, except the enemy AI is slightly dumber. But hey, that's the price you pay for perfection, I guess? I honestly wasn't a big fan of the Tomb Raider original series or the reboot, so it's a breath of fresh air to see that this game intrigues me. However, the story itself leaves a whole lot to be desired, because it's basically ripping off Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade. And I don't want to say it's copying too much of Uncharted, but you're gonna get a lot of Uncharted vibes from this game. But then again, that was the case with the last game, so if you're not used to it by now, then you're probably not gonna unsee it. And there seems to be a reoccurring trend of this game underperforming because the publishers make terrible decisions. First game wasn't marketed very well, but it sold pretty well, but Square deemed it a failure even though that was not the case. And now Rise is a timed exclusive on an underperforming platform. Really smart decision making there, guys. I can't wait for you to make the sequel exclusive to Linux PCs. Interactive story games have really hit their stride in 2015. I mean, after many successful jabs at the genre by Telltale Games, it was only a matter of time before other game developers decide they want to throw their horse in that race. Enter Life is Strange, an interactive storytelling game that's not only about choices and consequences, but centers its plot around that element as well, adding the ability to time travel to any point in the story, to alter the outcome of certain events, to advance something very different in the narrative. Now, unlike your typical Telltale game, Life is Strange actually rewards you for noticing the small things around the environments, giving more agency in the outcomes of future events. For example, picking up a piece of paper with some numbers on it in the last episode, and typing in those numbers as a passcode on a keypad. And there's also so much to like about the characters in this story, because despite their attempts at being trendy dialogue, these characters are written as human beings and not representations of them. Being true to its name, Life is Strange will always have you asking, what if? So Mortal Kombat 2011 was pretty groundbreaking for how fighting games told their story, and really laid the groundwork for other fighting games to follow suit, which none of them have. Even the Western-made ones, they just didn't want to do it, I guess. And then here comes Mortal Kombat X, giving you more of that style of storytelling, adding some new layers of depth in the combat, a brand new challenge tower, and a pretty awesome crypt, all of which are undermined by the microtransactions. And yet another interactive storytelling game that's not by Telltale. Until Dawn is a love letter to the Hollywood horror genre, hitting all the cheesiest slasher flick cliches in the book, performed by the basic slasher flick archetype characters, right down to the black guy, who surprisingly doesn't die first. And all the game really does is hand you the controls and ask you, who do you think should survive? This should sound like a horrible experience, but it actually is one of the most thrilling and exciting experiences you can have in a video game. Because despite how cliche this story is, it actually does hit some pretty emotional beats, and depending on your preferences, you actually start to care about some of these characters, especially Sam. And in a very heavy rain style, you get multiple endings based on your performance in the game. This game also has the best motion capture performances I've ever seen in a game, as well as really impressive visuals and Peter Stormare. Well, actually, I should have led with that. Peter Stormare's in this game. That should sell you on that alone. So yeah, this game was pretty much Hideo Kojima's last hoorah in this franchise before Konami gave him the boot. Because let's be real here, this game was shipped unfinished. Like, I hate to spoil this game for you guys, but this game basically ends with something akin to a to be continued screen. But that aside, this game, for what it is, it's pretty solid and really amazing. Basically an open world Metal Gear game. This game is just so fun and has so much going on with it. And it really has to be, because this is Hideo Kojima's last run with the franchise before it's inevitably turned into a pachinko machine. Soma, a new psychological horror game that's brought to us by the same people who brought us Amnesia: The Dark Descent and Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs. The second one wasn't actually that great. To properly describe Soma, I would have to call it the reverse of Dead Space. See, where Dead Space is a horror game themed in science fiction, Soma is a science fiction game themed in horror. This game is not scary all the time. It picks and chooses where the horror is introduced and how it's used. And its narrative centers around the value of life to a machine. To see our main character blissfully unaware as to what has happened to him, but slowly over time realize what has happened to him. And that's not really much of a spoiler because they address that really early on. And the bigger question is, what do they have in store for you after that plot point? This is one of those horror games you don't remember for its horror, but more rather you remember it for its narrative. Your two main characters that you were with throughout this entire journey are just so compelling. In an environment that's completely dominated by the will and thoughts of machines, these characters really make some very humanistic mistakes. And despite their many flaws, you still end up liking these two. Soma is definitely something that needs to be experienced. It's been an amazing ride through Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and a really bumpy ride through Arkham Origins and Blackgate. But Arkham Knight intends to bookend the Arkham Saga. And really, this is just more of what you've been expecting from these games. Because there really wasn't much to improve on since the first game, so they just added more elements. So making the series more open world and then adding the Batmobile seems to just help to bring the story to its logical conclusion. I'm not gonna spoil the story for you guys because you need to play this game for yourself. Because if you're a DC Comics fan, this game has DC lore up the ass. And honestly, the DLC doesn't feel like it was ripped out of the game so it could be sold back to us this time. I mean, probably was, but it doesn't feel that way this time. So that's a bonus. Seriously, if you love Batman, which chances are you probably do, you'll want to pick up this game. But not the PC port. PC port's awful. Don't pick that one up. So, Just Cause 2 was pretty fucking ridiculously fun. So, how did Square think that they were gonna top that? Squirrel Man! Fuck you! Here's another Soul-style game from our good old friends at FromSoft. This time we're in a Victorian Gothic setting, where the city of Yharnam is being plagued by monsters, demons, werewolves, snake people, and Cthulhu? This game is all about messing with one's mind. The deep thematic nature of this game series is still here, except it takes it to a whole new absurd level. The element of Madman's insight is so in-depth and ingenious. The idea that a simple man can't comprehend what is before him, so he needs the ideals of a madman to actually see it, in which case you'll actually believe or even think that you probably should go mad. Also, the gameplay mechanics very different from your typical Souls game. Borderlines on hack and slash action with all the different types of weapons that you acquire throughout this adventure. Also, the game is more about twitch responses to your enemies rather than tanking out their blows like in previous Dark Souls games. In Dark Souls, if you had a really good shield, then you really didn't have to worry about much throughout most of the game. In Bloodborne, however, there is no shield. You have to get in there and fight and react, and every decision you make has to be on the fly. And of course, armor and weapon stats don't really matter that much in this game, so, you can wear whatever you want. I mean, there really isn't much of a difference between chainmail and leather if your opponent has a frickin' Gatling gun.
And now, it's time for some honorable mentions.
Splatoon! I was always asking for a Turf Wars games in the style of Jet Set Radio, and Nintendo more or less gave me what I wanted. Thank you, Nintendo. Please don't take 15 more years to make another new IP. Samurai Warriors 4 2. It's Samurai Warriors 4, but with a 2 in the title. And not broken. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, a step up from the travesty that was Unity, but now it has become mechanically and functionally similar to Batman. Overwatch. Wait a minute, no wait, that doesn't officially come out yet. Oh shit. Transformers Devastation. Platinum Games made a Transformers game. I don't really need to say anything else.
I thought long and hard about this, but I truly believe, in my heart of hearts, that the best game of 2015 is... Burn! Gotcha! I totally gotcha! Oh, God. I'm a Boston. No, it's Undertale.
At first glance, Undertale seems like a love letter to the Earthbound and Mother series, using retro graphics, music, and gameplay just to hit those nostalgia buttons. Upon realizing how the game should be played, you're gonna take it upon yourself to start over and redo your save, but the game will never forget what you did. The game will toy with you, bringing up things from your previous save file, making you remember every wrong decision you made. No matter how much you wash, you'll never be clean again, Justin. Never be clean again, Justin. This game is filled to brim with side stories that really do bring these characters to life. Let me remind you, this isn't a world where your best friend is a talking skeleton. Again, these are just anthropomorphic animals and monsters, yet they have so very real human life problems. It really humanizes them to a degree and makes you care about them. And I'm not kidding when I say this game messes with your expectations, because when you figure out the way you should be playing the game just alters completely. You really wouldn't expect this type of stuff from a 16-bit style game. And there's a twist for every way that you play the game. So yeah, great characters, catchy music, an amazing story, and borderline Psycho Mantis levels of polish. This is one of those games that truly deserve a 10 out of 10. And on a side note, if you didn't let Temmie go to college, go fuck yourself.
And there you have it, the top 10 games of 2015. If you were smart, you played those. And if you didn't play any of those, what's wrong with you? Go! Get out! Happy New Year. Get out. Fuck you. Tired of your shit.